The sun had barely risen over the jagged desert cliffs when the lone rancher, Caleb Red Horse McGraw, rode across the valley where dust swirled like restless ghosts. He wasn't a man of many words. His boots spoke more than his mouth ever did, and his silence carried 1,000 untold stories. After losing his herd to drought and his home to a wildfire, Caleb had been drifting from town to town with nothing but his weathered saddle, a broken rifle, and a stubborn dream that someday the West would give him one good thing in return for all it had taken. That morning, as scorching winds blew sand against his face, he never imagined that fate was about to collide with him in a way that would shake the bones of the frontier. Somewhere near Deadman's Ridge, he heard the ground tremble, not like the rumble of buffalo, but heavier, deeper, almost human. His horse snorted nervously. Caleb raised his head and saw her. A towering girl, no, a woman, an Apache giantess standing nearly 7 feet tall, carved like a warrior goddess from old legends. Her hair fell in thick black braids down her back, her shoulders broad as canyon walls, and her amber eyes glowed like embers in a dying fire. Her name was Tala, Redbird, known among settlers as the Mountains, daughter and among her own people as the strongest, girl born in 3 generations. No man dared look her in the eye, except Caleb, who had nothing left to fear. Their first meeting wasn't gentle. Tala had been hunting a cougar that had attacked her tribe's children, and Caleb, unaware, rode straight into her path. With a single leap, she seized him by the front of his shirt and lifted him off his horse as easily as one would lift a feather. Caleb's hat flew off, and for the first time in his life, he found himself staring into the eyes of a woman who looked like she could throw him across the valley. Tala glared at him, rage burning, but Caleb didn't beg, didn't tremble. He simply met her gaze and said, "If you're gonna kill me, make it quick. I ain't got much left worth stealing." Something in his voice, steady, wounded, honest, made Tala pause. She dropped him to his feet and narrowed her eyes. "You are not afraid of me," she said. "Everyone else runs." Caleb dusted off his coat and shrugged. "Maybe I'm tired of running." That simple sentence softened the edges of her fury. She examined him, his sunburnt skin, his lean but strong arms, the deep sorrow in his eyes, and for the first time she saw not an intruder, not a threat, but a man shaped by hardship, standing tall despite the world trying to break him. Later that day, when Tala brought the slain cougar back to her tribe, Caleb followed at a distance. The Apache village was on edge, struggling against sickness, starvation, and raids from outlaw bands. Many warriors had fallen in recent months, and their fields were failing. When the elders saw Caleb, they wanted him gone, but Tala stood between him and their spears. She said, "He walks with the same loneliness as our land. The spirits brought him." Her words held weight. The tribe allowed him to stay one night. That night turned into days. Days turned into weeks. Caleb helped repair their fences, dig new wells, and tend to injured horses. The people began to respect him, not because he was strong, but because he worked harder than any man they had ever met. And unknown to him, Tala watched him every day, watched how he treated her people, how he spoke to children with kindness, how he hunted only what the tribe needed, how he carried wounds in his heart, but never spread bitterness. One evening, after a sandstorm had torn apart parts of the village, Caleb worked until his palms were raw. When he finally collapsed near the fire, Tala approached him silently. He glanced up, and for the first time she looked shy. This giant, unbeatable Apache girl suddenly seemed unsure. She knelt beside him, her voice low, almost trembling. "Caleb," she said, "our tribe is dying. Our bloodline fades. We need strength. We need new roots." He looked confused. "What are you asking, Tala?" Her cheeks flushed. Warrior, though she was, and she placed her massive hand gently over his. "The spirits showed me a vision, a man of fire and a woman of stone, emerging that brings life back to this land. Caleb McGraw, plant your seed in me." Silence, wind through the pines. Caleb's breath caught, not because of her words, but because of the vulnerability in them. In that moment, she wasn't a giantess, not a fighter, not a legend. She was a woman asking for hope, for a future. Caleb swallowed hard. Tala, you know I ain't got nothing. No ranch, no name worth speaking. No bloodline fit for your people. Tala leaned closer, her voice deep and steady. You have honor, strength, a brave heart. That is enough. And there, under a sky painted with burning stars, began a bond so rare the desert winds would whisper about it for generations. But no story in the Wild West runs smooth, not when greed prowls like a starving wolf. A band of ruthless outlaws known as the Black Spur gang had been terrorizing settlements for months, stealing livestock, burning villages, and abducting women. Their leader, Vance Crowder, a scarred gunman with dead eyes, caught wind of a rumor traveling across the frontier. A lone rancher living among the Apache, protected by a giant girl said to be stronger than 10 men. To Crowder, that meant one thing: profit. If he could capture her, he could sell her to traveling circuses, armies, or even foreign kings who paid fortunes for exotic giants. One night, while Caleb and Tala were checking the water lines, the Black Spur gang launched a surprise assault on the Apache village. Gunshots echoed through the mountains, tents burst into flames, children screamed, and warriors scrambled to defend their families. Caleb ran into the chaos without a second thought, grabbing a fallen rifle and firing into the darkness. But the outlaws were many, too many, and they had dynamite. Tala roared like thunder as she charged through them, knocking men aside with sheer strength. She grabbed one outlaw by the throat and hurled him into a wagon. Another she crushed with her bare hands. But while she fought, Crowder set a trap. A hidden net weighted with steel plates dropped from above, entangling her like a chained bear. She struggled hard, enough to crack the earth, but the ropes were soaked in tar and resin, impossible to break quickly. Caleb saw her fall. Something inside him snapped. Ignoring bullets, ignoring pain, he ran straight into Crowder, tackling him off his horse. The two men fought brutally, kicking, clawing, punching in the dirt. Crowder slashed Caleb's shoulder open with a knife. Caleb smashed a rock into Crowder's jaw. Blood covered both of them. But Crowder was bigger, meaner. He slammed Caleb into the ground and pressed the knife to his throat. I'm taking the giant girl, Crowder hissed. And when I'm done, the whole world will know the name Black Spur. Caleb, barely conscious, whispered, over my dead body. Crowder smirked. Exactly. Then boom! The ground shook. Crowder's eyes widened. Tala had broken free. She rose behind him like a wrathful mountain spirit, blood dripping from her arms, her breath steaming like a bull. Before Crowder could turn, she grabbed him by the skull with one giant hand and lifted him off the ground as though he weighed nothing. You hurt my people, she growled. You touched my man. And with one swift, merciless motion, she ended him. The gang, seeing their leader fall, scattered like frightened insects. The Apache warriors finished the rest. Tala dropped to her knees beside Caleb, her huge hands trembling as she held him. Caleb, stay with me. Do not leave. Her voice broke, something no one had ever heard before. Caleb touched her cheek weakly. Ain't going nowhere, giant girl. For 3 days, he drifted between life and death. Tala never left his side. She fed him, cooled his fever, sang to him in her native tongue, songs only mothers sang to newborns. And when Caleb finally opened his eyes, she wept openly, her tears falling like warm rain onto his chest. Months passed, under Caleb's new methods of water storage, farming and ranching combined. With Tala's unmatched strength, the Apache tribe grew stronger than it had been in decades. The land revived. Children laughed again. Crops rose higher. And one clear morning, Tala placed Caleb's hand on her belly and whispered, the spirits blessed us. A new life grows. Caleb froze, then smiled wider than he ever had in his life. For a man who had lost everything, this was more than a blessing. It was a rebirth.